You're listening to World Have Your Say. We're live on the BBC World Service. We're going to talk now about the conversation around Donald Trump and his position on abortion. Now, the Republican hopeful, the frontrunner for the Republican nomination for US president, has withdrawn a call for women who have abortions to be punished only hours after he suggested it. He was speaking on MSNBC TV in the US. He'd proposed, quote, some form of punishment for women who have abortions if they were made illegal. But then, after being criticised, he went on to repeat the Republican Party line that only the person performing the abortion should be punished, not the women. He now says the woman is a victim in this case, as is the life in her womb. My position has not changed. Like Ronald Reagan, I am pro-life with exceptions. Let's speak to a group of women voters from around the United States, because much of the focus is now on Donald Trump's standing among women. We can speak to Colette, who is a mother of three, a non-profit worker, live with us from New Hampshire. Hi there, Colette.
Hi, how are you?
Very well, thank you. Destiny's with us as well, who's founder of a group called New Wave Feminists, live with us from Dallas, Texas. Hi, Destiny.
Hello.
And Judy's with us too, a county employee in Michigan. Hi to you, Judy.
Hello.
Good to have all three of you with us. And before we get talking to you and you get talking to one another, I want all three of you to listen to this conversation I had a bit earlier with somebody who couldn't come on the radio to join us live. It's a conversation with a woman called Katie. And we first got in touch with her a couple of weeks ago because she had been a staunch supporter of Donald Trump. And of course, we were trying to speak to supporters of Donald Trump today. We'll speak to one in just a moment too. When I spoke to her earlier on, though, I asked her to explain what she saw in him as a presidential candidate.
Primarily, to be honest, I was attracted to the fact that he wasn't a politician and the fact that he is a businessman. I was hoping that he could really help the American economy and bring jobs to America. And I feel like a lot of candidates say that, but then they're making agreements. And as from him being a businessman, I purely thought that. And he's also, too, just funner candidate to watch than the other candidates.
Because I think you've been to rallies, haven't you? You've seen him speak live.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I attended the rally in New Orleans, and that was a very interesting experience there.
In what way?
Well, that rally got a lot of media coverage, and all the coverage was on the protesters. But I was in the crowd among other supporters, and there were people of different races supporting him out there, and everyone was pretty kind.
So when it comes to supporting Donald Trump, what's changed?
So what's changed is yesterday's comments regarding him just believing that it's okay to punish women who choose to have an abortion. For someone who I've had 2 abortions, I don't agree with that at all. If anything, I believe more support needs to be given to women who choose to have that, because it is a tough time. Like, I work a salaried job, and to take time to even do that from my job, like during a busy time, was very stressful. And there's so much stuff. Any woman, whether they're going to keep a baby or not keep a baby, there's so much emotional stress that happens that you have to deal with, and your grief is disenfranchised. And then to punish someone who is not even getting empathy from others in their community it's outrageous. And I do not want to support any candidate who believes in that, because it definitely takes 2 people to tango and get in that situation, and to just blame it on the carrier of a child for their decision, even though, they could have been coerced from their partner, or it could have been something of rape or whatever. It's outrageous and unacceptable.
Now, of course, he has since clarified, some say, others say, changed his position to emphasise that the punishment, in his view, should be on the person providing the abortion. Does that not satisfy you as a former Trump supporter that actually his position is more palatable to you?
If the person is providing something that's illegal, then I understand if it's like technically illegal, then I understand that a provider of that service, just like maybe a drug dealer, should get punished. But I don't think that a provider of an abortion service, if it's actually safe, should be punished.
Did you not expect him to hold that position? Obviously, perhaps you didn't know what his position was on the abortion debate when you were supporting him. Had you not realised that may be his position when you were going to the rallies, for example?
I mean, it doesn't surprise me, though, about him, because he is the person that's gonna give his supporters what they want to hear. And that's a double-edged sword there. Like, I like the fact that he's telling us that he wants to make America great again, bring jobs and industries back here. But, you know, he's also saying some very awful and hateful things about other things that some people do want to hear.
Who are you going to vote for now?
I'm not sure yet. I think it will likely be Hillary. I don't always agree with the pro-life politics side with the Republican Party. I then tried to choose minorities in office, and women especially.
So you think for you it's very important that a female president is elected for the first time? That's the principal attraction now of Hillary Clinton?
Yes. I can get down with some of the Democratic platform, but the attraction that she is a woman and actually a competent woman, that is attractive to me.
So that's my conversation with Katie, an independent voter who was going to vote for Donald Trump, but she's changed her mind because of the conversation about abortion in the last 24 hours and now is leaning towards Hillary Clinton. I introduced Colette and Destiny and Judy, who are live with us from around the United States. Now, Judy, in Michigan, you are a Donald Trump supporter. Have you wavered at all from that, considering the debate of the last 24 hours?
Not a bit. And I have to tell you, I'm surprised that anybody has, because he's straightened out his faux pas, if you will, by, making a formal statement. And he stated that he would not hold the woman responsible, that she would be considered the victim in this case. And that, he's pro-life with exceptions. Now, I mean, I don't know what the question is about that. I mean, if you're a Trump supporter and everything hangs on the fact that you don't like what he said about one thing about abortion, then I think you're a right-wing person then.
Colette, why don't you come in here and talk to Judy?
Well, we're sitting on a panel today as members of the public. We're unscripted, and ultimately we're responsible for what we say. And at the very least, we can expect the same of a media-savvy businessman who's a reality star, who's running for president. And beyond that, his remarks are consistent with the dialogue that we see over and over again from Trump when he's unscripted. You know, he has unsavory views of women that are clearly visible, especially on Twitter. If his remarks about punishment were coming from a perspective of someone who didn't have a history of punishing women, perhaps I could see them in a different light. As they stand very consistent with the way he has shown he feels towards women.
And Judy, just respond to that before we go to Destiny. People, for example, talk about the terminology that Donald Trump has used in the past towards individual women, the words disgusting, slobs, fat pigs, etc., in specific cases. Do they perturb you? Do they put you off at all? Because some people can't understand in that light why a woman might choose to vote for him.
Well, I'll tell you, I believe that he says what he feels. It might be a little extreme at times, but, you know where he's coming from. Whereas somebody else could say things in a more roundabout way or not mention anything at all, and you don't really know where they're coming from. You know where Donald is coming from at all times. He is who he is. With him, you get who you're looking at, okay? He's not trying to hide anything. And by the way, anything that he said to anybody, he was, viciously attacked first.
So you value what you see as his honesty over the views that he might hold on individual things or in individual circumstances?
Oh, I like his views on things, okay? He is straight to the point. He is not pulling any punches. We are in dire straits in America, and he sees that. And if you think he wants to lose that and lose all of his billions because people are coming in from other countries illegally and taking our jobs, among other things, getting insurance, now they can even vote and they aren't even, legal immigrants. I'm sorry, but you guys have to take a step back and we're not looking for somebody who just says all the right things. We are looking for somebody that we know is going to be able to come in here and get things done.
Destiny, okay, let's bring in Destiny. Sorry to interrupt. There's a bit of a delay on the line. Sorry to interrupt you right at the end there, but Destiny is waiting patiently to join in with this. Destiny, what's your take on what's happened over the last 12 hours or so?
So I think that Donald Trump obviously is constantly showing his true colors. He's a reality star. This is a popularity contest. He panders and he gives the people what they want. Unfortunately, he doesn't actually understand the pro-life movement whatsoever. A pro-life movement which is quite greatly made up of post-abortive women who have been victimized, been coerced, been exploited through abortion, and are now trying to help other women by offering resources and help and support that they did not receive, which is why they ended up having to make this unfortunate choice.
And Destiny, just to explain, your organisation, you're part of that movement, right? So you're among the people who campaign for what you might call pro-life views. So does this damage the movement that you're part of, Destiny? What he says, even though he's rode back on it?
Absolutely, because the problem is people are just going to hear that and say, see, that's exactly what pro-lifers want. They want to put women in prison and do all this. That is absolutely not true. Our movement is very pro-woman. We want to help women. We see them as the second victim when it comes to an abortion. And so for him to make a statement like that, because he has a cheering crowd, he gets riled up. We've seen him do it before. He just says what he thinks will be popular. But then immediately he goes back on it. So for his supporters that say, I like Donald, he speaks his mind and, says what he thinks. Well, yeah, but look, he also ends up having to retract a lot of it because it does not line up with the party platform whatsoever when it comes to issues like pro-life.
So who's your preferred candidate of the, 4 or 5, I suppose there are left, who might become president this year, barring something surprising at one of the conventions?
I'm someone who subscribes to the consistent life ethic, which is going to be, anti-violence all the way through. I don't believe in unjust wars. I don't believe in death penalty. And obviously I'm anti-abortion because I see it as a violent alternative to a crisis, which I've been in myself. I was 16 years old when I got pregnant with my first child. So I understand the fear and panic women go through, which again is why I am a big advocate for helping women. Now, when it comes to the candidates we have, unfortunately, none of them meet the criteria of consistent life ethic. So odds are I will end up writing someone in.
And Colette, how about you?
Well, first, if I may, I want to address the fact that Trump is a victim of vicious attacks. He's written 9 books, and I've read them all. I'm an independent, and I wanted to have an idea of what he was about after those first remarks about Mexicans, which were visceral to me. But I, at this point, am leaning towards Sanders. I'm very analytical in the way I approach politics. I'm definitely doing some more research. But, I don't want to be able to say that, a woman who supports Trump is not someone who doesn't belong in the political arena. Absolutely not. We all have different goals and different views. We want to move this country forward. I want to be very careful when I give my opinion of why I think someone supports a candidate. I think in some cases, people don't know the history of Trump. I tell people, read Trump's views in his own words. I have a 28-year-old daughter who has a new baby. And I remember reading In the Art of a Comeback, a book written by Trump, his views on working women. My daughter, Anna, is a working woman in Boston. And his view was that working women weren't particularly loyal, working moms. And he said, and I can't quote, I can paraphrase, that working woman isn't giving me 100%. She's giving me 84%, and 16% is going towards taking care of children. And he used that quote to say that women don't belong in the workplace. I mean, we have to be very careful. When he says making America great again, is he referencing a time when greatness was assigned to men?
Well, look, thanks to all three of you for taking part. We heard views for and against Donald Trump there, and of course, one conversation with an American voter who's changed her mind. It'd be great to return to all three of you as we go through the election season to hear how things develop. So thanks to Judy, to Colette, and also to Destiny on that conversation about Donald Trump and his position on abortion. You're listening to World Have Your Say live on the BBC World Service.